Welcome to another edition of Northern Heat. My name is Bob Lennon, president of ThermalWood Canada and host for the show. And today our special guest, Brian Lavigne. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
So, Brian, you're the branch manager of Eddy's, and Eddy's has gone through kind of a traumatic change in the last few months, right? So tell us a little bit about everything that's been going on.
It's been really hectic. I mean, on May 11th, I got a phone call. I was in Fredericton with my family. My son was there for a drama fest, and we're just relaxing in a hotel room, and I get a call to say that your building's on fire from a friend that was passing by. And then all of a sudden, my phone just started blowing up, and it was a surreal thing. So I had to make some phone calls to make sure that I had the right people to get over there, to make sure that they could give the fire department whatever it was. I didn't know the extent of the fire until we actually got into the truck and started driving back home. And my wife was updating me, through social media and everything else that was happening. And at the time, it seemed like the city of Bathurst was on fire.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was my biggest thing, was the fact that I didn't know the extent of the fire. The fire is astronomical, but I thought it was going to hit the nursing homes. I thought it was going to hit Parkwood Heights. You know what I mean? So not knowing this as I was driving back, it was the longest drive of my life. And so when we got back home, I dropped the family off at home. I think it was around 12:30ish. I drove around for a couple, 3 hours to make sure that I just felt helpless. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I thought if they're going to evacuate the nursing home, then at least I could be there to help, evacuate, things like that. But then I noticed that the fire department had really contained the fire well, even though it was still blasting. It was quite a night.
So the big thing through that is that, it was probably the biggest fire we've ever had in Bathurst. And it brought everybody together. But the fact of bringing all the fire departments together is one thing, but it's all about the resilience that
Absolutely.
We have here and the culture that we've got in Bathurst, because here you are and you were telling me it's going to be 2 months on Thursday, that the fire started, and you guys never missed a beat. Like you did, but didn't. But still, during that period of time, it's hectic. You've lost everything and you start off from scratch. But the day after the fire, you were having a meeting with all your employees.
Yep, exactly. So the Sunday, the board meeting had had a meeting to discuss what was going to happen. The first thing that they said, without even skipping a beat, is that nobody's losing their jobs and we're rebuilding. Next subject, right? So then on the Monday, we were able to go and meet all the employees from the Bathurst area, and all the upper management, I guess it would be, that was from out of town, came in. And Keith and Jody are two co-presidents, fantastic leadership. They were there to reassure us that nobody was losing employment. Employment's going to look different for the next little bit as we figure out what's going on. But that we're going to rebuild.
But the fact of right off the bat saying that we're rebuilding,
yes,
and nobody's losing their jobs, it's
unheard of.
That, and that just puts the real rules and specs right down there, and everybody knows what the expectations are, and said, here's the marching orders, let's go.
Exactly. So, I mean, so from that point on, we had a few different locations that we worked out of. We started off at the golf course. Galway Bray was great to host us. Unfortunately, there was events and stuff that were happening, so we kind of outgrew that space. Then we went to a church basement right across from Terry Fox, the Evangeline Church, and they were grateful enough to host us for a couple of weeks until they had an event, and then reached out to the city of Bathurst, and then we were over at the Casey Irving for 2 weeks, I think it was. I can't remember. Every day's a Monday right now, but we were there for a little bit. And then we had to leave that area because of the ESN graduation. So at that point, we had the paper signed for this location over here in 2200 Vanier. And so we put a huge push within a week to basically get enough renovations done to get everybody here. So now everyone's under one roof over here.
So, people think of Eddy's as being the building supply store that's up on St. Anne Street, but it's more than that, because you've got branches all the way through the Maritimes, right?
Exactly. So we have 11 locations. We have 5 in New Brunswick, 5 in Nova Scotia, 1 recently in PEI. We are the only building supply location out of all the Eddy groups. Everyone else just focuses more on the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, motor controls, things like that. Eddy's has grown to be quite a big competitor in the market over the Maritimes.
And you were also saying that Bathurst is, it is the hub. It started out here, and this is where all the distribution is done too.
Exactly. So it wasn't just our location that burnt, our store. It was actually the distribution center for all 11 locations. So we had quite a bit of stock over there. There was 10 people that work out of that distribution center as well. And then our head office people worked from upstairs from the old location. And we also had our purchasing department that was there too.
So how many employees do you have in all?
In Bathurst, there was 49 people that were affected by the fire. In total, we have 192.
You're right. It's a reckoning size of a company, and there's a lot of history there because we talked briefly about that in 100 and how many years?
Oh, I mean, George Eddy Group started back, I believe, in 1895. So it's gone through various different companies, but really it's been over 100 years since we've been around.
Well, and this is a big piece of our city and a big piece of history. And even the building that you were in that we just lost, was a sawmill before with Laparells, and they'd been there for years too and stuff. So now the fact that the plan is to rebuild on that land, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So probably a lot more modern and stuff than that. And
it won't be the same layout as what it was before. They are working right now with engineers and architects to try to come up with a plan. Whether it's 2 buildings, 1 building, I'm not 100% sure yet, but they are in the works to try to get something going as soon as we can.
Well, you made a comment a while ago that every day is like a Monday because I've heard some of your employees of talking to them and they were pretty impressed with everything that's happened. But your name has come up and floated to the top a number of times on saying he's just like a superstar because he hasn't quit and hasn't stopped and has been working crazy hours all the way through. So there hasn't been any vacation time through this whole period of time.
But there is some in a couple of weeks. Yeah. I'm going to take a week off in a couple of weeks to go enjoy with the family and stuff. But no, there hasn't been. And my family is a huge supporter. I mean, like, without them, like, this wouldn't have been possible to put all these hours in and everything else. Actually, and they're even helping out. My wife's upstairs right now painting, helping paint to get the head office ready. And I hired my oldest son for the summer. So maybe that's the only way I could see my family for the summer, right? But no, in all honesty, I mean, we're still trying to get some, still take time for the family life as well, right? To make sure that I still have somewhat of a balance. Yeah.
But again, it's a crisis, right?
Exactly.
And we all come together in this region when there's a crisis that has happened to make things happen. And so, one of the reasons on why we have the Northern Heat is to talk about some really positive stories and to talk to people like yourselves that are maybe saying turning up the heat in this case is maybe not the best term. Yeah, we'll turn it down a little bit, but that's what you've been doing is that you got everybody together, and yourselves and the Eddy Group have been able to rally everybody together to get everything going. And on that behalf, I'd like to present you with a hat here, the Northern Heat Report, and
Excellent.
For the great work that you're doing and bringing this whole city back together again and giving people reason to keep going. So appreciate it. And thank you very much.
All right.
And there we are, another edition of Northern Heat for this week, the place you come to listen to the stories that haven't been discovered yet.